Some content or topics discussed could trigger a past anxiety or be sensitive or disturbing to listen to or view. Please view and listen with caution. Hi, my name is Todd Blyleven. I'm one of the hosts of the Walking Tall podcast, and it's our mission to help all people that are down and depressed or dealing with some sort of trauma or mental health issue to learn how to stand back up and walk tall again in their lives. Please follow us on all of our social platforms, our YouTube channel, and check out our Walking Tall movement at www.walkingtallmovement.com. Now, here's our show.
Welcome back to Walking Tall. And if you were with us last week, we were so honored to be able to hang out and spend some time with Mr. TJ Baudet. And TJ is so impressive on so many levels. Obviously, a service to our great nation and the sacrifices he made there. And then as his journey has begun, if you will, his ability to assess life and be present in the moment and be so in tune with his spirituality and his true self is just so impressive. And I know you, Todd, also were impressed with getting to know TJ and hearing his story and just how cool of a dude he is and everything else he's got going on. So what were some of your takeaways as we stepped away from TJ's show last week?
Yeah, I think, such a charismatic individual, number one, the perseverance that he displayed, walking through life and, true patriot, a U.S. Marine, 8 years in, combat vet. It was interesting to hear a story on 9/11 and, the unfortunate incident that happened in New York and how he was deeply connected to that experience and his motivation to go out and serve our country and just help others, right? And he wanted to he wanted to eliminate all the bad in our world. And unfortunately, through his Marine experience and his combat experience, he didn't get to fulfill like all that he wanted, right? So then to come out of the Marines and create and like almost recreate that purpose that he has in life, I thought was truly inspirational. And now he's doing so much like for others in need and the coachability part. So I thought just a cool guy, man. And yeah, go back and watch that show. It was cool. Yeah.
And I'm just excited, for you and I, Todd, and certainly you as well, Dr. LaRosa. Like, this is not going to be the last we hear of TJ. And like all of our guests, we've stayed in touch and their support is instrumental in us moving forward. And I'm so curious to hear what you have to say, Dr. LaRosa, because, as I was listening to TJ speak and as I sit back and think about last week's show, it dawned on me like the differentiating of approaches from your perspective and TJ's. But they're still so healing, right? If you think about it, you're educated, doctor, accolades, all these things. And TJ is approaching mental health in such a different way, but they're both healing and they're both so beneficial. And so I know you were impressed with what TJ had to say and what he's doing as well. So I'm just so excited to hear what you have to say thinking about last week's show.
Yeah, well, as I said to TJ, he just exudes depth. He is so profound and so insightful with regard to himself. I called him self-actualized, and that is a term in psychology, and it's it's a level that we all seek at some point in our existence. And it's about knowing our weaknesses, our strengths. It's about putting it all together and understanding the big picture of how we can then lead our lives in a fulfilled way. And he has just shown the perfect example of a person who's worked really hard to achieve what he has for himself mentally and all the things that he's trying to do for others, walking tall for others and using those past hurts and those past triumphs. It's a real testament to who he is as a person. I really enjoyed getting to know him. And I said this, he's worked hard to become a life coach. And I do not devalue anybody's contribution to help others, regardless of the level of education that they have. I'm very fortunate to have the level of education that I have. My parents did not come from a highly educated background, and I'm the first in my family to go to graduate school and, PhD and beyond. And that was just really my own life's course that led me there, because I was just continuously seeking information this quest for knowledge that I needed to have to help others. So however we get there, all that matters is the end result and how we use the tools that we have gained over time to help others. And just the fact that that is a passion and a mission of his is so highly admirable.
Yeah, no, you said it beautifully. I think, you kind of packaged what I maybe fumbled through trying to get your perspective. And it really is true. His self-actualization is so impressive. And that's also why we on Walking Tall are so lucky to have you, Dr. LaRosa, as well, because not only do you have the education and the accolades and the experience and all those things, your self-actualization and your empathy is as big as the world. And so,
Thank you.
as we've gone through this first season, and I call it season, because it's with bittersweet, emotions. I want to let a listener know that, we are going to be taking a short little break here on Walking Tall after this week's show, and take some time to focus not only on ourselves and our families, but also pushing our movement forward and stepping into some of our other initiatives that we want to take into the world to help solve these mental health issues we're all experiencing. But as we've had a lot of just amazing guests, I want to just sit back a little bit today and just highlight, this past season and some of the work we've done. And first and foremost, and maybe most importantly, how it's impacted us as a team, the three of us as Walking Tall. And, we started this idea many months ago, and it's now come to fruition, and we're actually realizing some of our aspirations long ago. And so it's got to be empowering. But back to you, Dr. LaRosa, I just want to hear, we started this long ago. How has this impacted you, your family, your line of work, your perspective, whatever it is you want to talk about? But what has Walking Tall done for you so far as we wrap up this season?
It's just enriched my life immeasurably. Each and every single solitary person that we have gotten to know, and I include you as well, Todd and Chris, my new friends. I feel so blessed and so fortunate to have heard their experiences in life. All of our guests experienced difficulty and trauma on a level, God willing, that most people couldn't imagine. And the way that they experienced it and went through their crisis and fought to walk tall for themselves and others, and leading to the end result and the wonderful lives that they have really worked for themselves, has truly just continued to inspire me and just given me just such I can't say a new passion, because I'm always so passionate about helping people, but it has ignited my passion to continue to help others in ways that I never even dreamed of or imagined. And I'm just so grateful for that opportunity. There's so many things that we all want to do together as a team that I want to do individually. And I do see the rest of my life's work being dedicated towards this mission and to helping people, on a deeper and much more connected level with people in the world that I never even knew that I would get to know. So I am grateful first and foremost.
Yeah, I got goosebumps hearing what you just said, and we've certainly met some amazing people and have had some great experiences. And it just gives me, such great excitement to hear that you, like I, want to, carry this forward for as long as we're on this earth and do what it is we're passionate about, on several levels. And I could also attest, and Todd, you can too, on our little team text messages. Dr. LaRosa has, hey, I have this idea. I want to write this book. I want to set this curriculum. And we're like, whoa, slow down. We got to just fill the podcast.
I'm nowhere near you, Chris. You're the idea director.
But it's like, we just got to
you.
film a show. Can we just get on a Zoom together? But no, Dr. LaRosa, I want to just say, your addition to this team was something I never even knew possible when Todd and I first had these conversations. And it was just by, divine intervention, even as Todd was speaking earlier before we started filming, that you came into my life and Todd's life. And you just certainly rounded out our team on so many levels. And it's just been my honor, and I know yours too, Todd, to have you here. But Todd, What do you have to say about this past, I guess 20 episodes or so we've kind of put out to the world, and as we wrap up season 1, to take a little break, won't be long. But what are some of your thoughts, and how has your life been impacted, thinking back on season 1?
I think, Dr. LaRosa said it eloquently. I'm going to probably not say it that way. I think that, I think the journey itself has been, it's been a roller coaster of emotions. And each time that, we bring on a new guest, it's like this thing becomes more of a movement, more of a culture, more of a lifestyle. And that's how it's really kind of impacted my whole being and where I'm at, and the belief that what we are doing and how we're sharing our own vulnerability in our lives and sharing other stories are literally creating those survival guides, but creating a new culture in our life where vulnerability and approachability are acceptable. And starting back from like our first couple episodes, where we're sharing our craziest nightmares of our existence, right? And where our reset button in our life started with you sharing your story, Chris, of the Highland Park unfortunate incident, and me sharing my story of Las Vegas and the sadness that comes through that, right? But then you have Dr. LaRosa that comes in, and she's sharing her heartfelt story of sadness. And then there's the three of us that are all feeling the same, of like, we all share this piece in our life that was just kind of bad, and how we've been able to learn how to stand up and walk tall again. And then pushing on to, Brian Wood and sharing his story as a police officer, and Chris Brown as a combat Marine, and us sharing stories about guilt and grief. And I mean, I'm just, going through the Ian Harris to Kyle Thousand to talking about anger, and Amir Fikari and Augie Semrad and Natalie Douglas, like heart-wrenching, amazing stuff that like makes you cry, and really like wakes you up and shakes your whole being of like who you are as a person and what you should be doing in this world. And I'm just, to Lori Zapula and Jill Winter and Brandon Cody and all of it, right? And you discussing panic and being so vulnerable, Chris, and sharing where you're at. And then look at our own personal journeys of you going through EMDR and my personal journey of going through that. And then you got Dr. LaRosa, that every time the two monkeys in the cage, like you and me, are going off, she like comes in and goes, all right, boys, here we go. This is why you're feeling this way. It's just been an incredible journey. And I'm so honored that, and happy, Chris, that you brought this up to light. You created this opportunity for us to be on this journey together, and it's amazing. And we are getting so much positive feedback, and keep up the creativity. Chris, you've just been an amazing. Look at this, we got apparel now. We have apparel. We
I
have
need to
shirts
update
and
my
hats.
wardrobe here. Yeah.
I'm writing poems. Come on.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that Todd Blyleven was going to write a poem? People were like, what? You're doing what? Yeah,
I still say that.
Power of
I feel like you wrote
love,
a poem,
man.
And they're
You
profound writings. Nothing.
Yeah, your poetry, Todd, honestly,
It's-
is beautiful.
It is.
And when you dropped it on me a couple weeks ago, you're like, hey, you didn't even told me. You're like, hey, I've been writing poetry. You want to hear one? And I'm like, well, yeah. And you read me one, and I'm like, what about the second? What about the third? And then you've been so vulnerable. You just yourself were on an amazing, amazing podcast, making a guest appearance representing us, the first responders up out of the Northeast. And you read that poem on that show. Look at how far you've come in just expressing your creativity and your emotions through poetry. And I know you, without giving it away, you wrote a killer song that we're gonna get sang by some amazing country artists, and like the list goes on and on. And so
I did write one for Walking Tall, by the way.
Well,
I've been working on this for a while, and if at the end I may read this thing. It's
right.
short. I shortened it to make it for maybe possibly this show. So
but no, like your growth has been, evident as well. And it's been such an honor just to share that with you. And then obviously Dr. LaRosa, not only getting to know you as a person and as a mother and your passion for baseball and all those fun things, but like your ability to relate to Todd and I, and to bring into terms that we could understand, or terminology that we can like relate to, has just been so impactful to me personally, and just understanding what it is I'm going through. And I could tell you as well that that's not I'm not the only one giving that feedback. There's been many friends and listeners and fans now, I guess, of ours that are like, Dr. LaRosa's, she's got it. And Todd is like a big teddy bear. I want to hug him. And, everybody probably wants to slap me, but that's okay, and, Todd,
So awesome, man.
I just wanted to take a minute or two for each of us, before we wrap up, just to highlight each of our guests. And I think it's important because they spent some time with us, they've invested in our movement, and frankly, they're carrying it out, right? We have people all throughout the United States at this point, sporting our shirts or telling others to listen to our podcast and asking others if they've heard of us. So I want to just take some time, and obviously, Todd, you mentioned we started with Brian Wood, like the best man in your wedding, a 29-year veteran of police force, did amazing things. Dr. LaRosa, what were, a few quick things you remembered about the time we spent with Woody?
The amount of experience and the amount of strength that he carries with him as a person. And I could see that he, being so tough on the exterior, has really sheltered others and possibly himself from some of the extreme difficulties that he has faced in his line of work. And he has done such a remarkable job keeping our country safe, and really just the level of patriotism and honor that I felt just from meeting him on screen for that brief period of time was overwhelming to me. In terms of empathy, of course I do have it at a high level, but I'm able to see people and their truest natures, and I just feel as if I have received great superpowers from those around me and the wonderful people that I've met. And he really leads the way with his character and his strength. And I have absolutely nothing but ultimate respect for Woody.
Yeah, no, me too. Anybody who's willing to stand up in Todd Blyleven's wedding has got my respect on so many levels. Right. And
15-minute best man talk, by the way. It was 15 minutes.
15 minutes. It doesn't surprise me.
It had everybody sitting down again. Yeah, he sat everybody down.
That's so funny. And the thing that when I think of Woody is just, he's a good person. I've received texts from him, I'm texting him. He's not one who's shying away from walking tall. And Todd, real quick to you, being your best friend, your best man, you guys obviously talk about life, and you get his feedback about what we're doing, but what are some of your quick takeaways as it relates to Woody?
I just was so honored that he came on. I mean, I've watched his career grow and listened to some of the stories that he's embarked on as an officer of law, and been a beacon of hope for his community. For him to be vulnerable the way that he is, and wanting and joining our movement. He is such a proud individual of what we're doing, and I'm so proud of him and what he's accomplished. And just the fact that here's another tough guy, another tough person in our society that is recognizing that it's good to be approachable and vulnerable, to share his stories, to help others in their struggles. And so, I mean, just hats off to him. He's such an amazing human being.
Yeah. And I can't wait to taste his barbecue. So
he's good. He can really cook, man.
I know. Well, and then it didn't stop there, obviously, Woody being our first guest. And then it just got more interesting, if that was even possible. And we had Chris Brown on, and his story of heroism and serving our nation in the Middle East for 3 tours. It was just rattling in so many ways. But then to hear the work he's doing with his charitable efforts and his work through becoming a therapist and now having his own practice. Todd, what thinking about Chris Brown, what are some of your quick thoughts about him?
A true patriot. His story of where he recounts his warlike situation, the combat that he was in. I mean, I still get goosebumps thinking about that moment for him. The silence that he speaks about really resonates with so many of us, right? After a traumatic event, regardless of whatever it was, that silent moment where you just could, now it all like comes into reality, and your brain is trying to process things, and it's scary, and just now that how he's such another beacon of hope, a light, right, that is shining bright on the northwest side of our country, where he's helping others and through their struggles. So what a cool individual.
Yeah. And we haven't heard, it's not the last we've heard of him too. We're still texting and talking, and we got some plans, as we move this movement forward. And Dr. LaRosa, I know, Chris's story just hit home with you, considering when he enlisted and the age and all of those things, given, Vito and Anthony's ages. But, thinking about Chris, what are some of your final thoughts?
Well, again, the vulnerability and the willingness to share difficult situations and times in his life, like when he was in a fight with his friend, and his sincere regrets for that behavior. I hope that he has processed that and realized that he went through significant trauma and experiences that affected his mental health in ways that he just could not understand yet. And not condoning, behaviors of that kind, but, we're all human, we all make mistakes. And for him to have that level of understanding and an apology for that is just another sign of what an upstanding human being he is. And going into combat and into those situations, waking up, not fully clothed, in bare feet, in an explosion, having to go through all of those experiences at such a young age when he did enlist is truly overpowering for people to understand. And, just looking from the outside, if I would have met him on the street and heard he was in the military, of course, I would say, as always, thank you for your service. But not until he really told that story step by step in an intricate detail could I get a picture and a vision of what he and many of our other military men and women experience when they do fight for this country. And I think it's just, enlightening. It's a wake-up call. And I think that we, as a country, we're just so fortunate to have so many men and women, like him, who are out there doing great things for our country and serving.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And, it's been an honor. I've put him in touch with several other military veterans that I've known or met along the way. And to help, build that community from a mental health perspective has been an honor of ours as well. And, certainly getting to know Chris has been at the top of that list. And, then we moved to somebody I've known for a long time, and Kyle Thousand, and having KT on. And so, where we got a little heavy with Chris and, hearing his story, we had a little bit more, I think of, you called it the cool factor, Todd, with KT, and hearing his story of, being an amazing sports agent and working with Rock Nation and Jay-Z, and now at Milk and Honey. And Dr. LaRosa, he had that Derek Jeter jersey above his head the entire show. And I know you kind of, as we wrapped up, were like, oh, I couldn't stop staring at that Jeter jersey, being a big Yankee fan. So as you think back about KT, what are some of your thoughts looking back to his episode?
Well, I don't really remember that episode because I was just obsessed with the jersey the entire time. So I really didn't process anything else. No, I'm just kidding.
Who's KT again?
Oh, goodness. Again, from a different perspective, somebody who's so darn successful, but yet so humble, and yet so willing to open up and be vulnerable for the sake of helping others. Again, I say it time and time again, I have never felt so blessed week after week after week to come into the arenas of people who are able and willing to do such wonderful things for the sake of others. It is so hard to get on a platform where other people are watching you, analyzing you, thinking about you, comparing you, and all kinds of other things. It's so hard to open up and to be vulnerable, to show your potential mistakes and weaknesses. But everyone is doing it, and everyone is doing it because they see a greater picture here, and they know that showing their weaknesses and their troubles in life, and how they have used those situations to better themselves and ultimately better others in the world around, is hopefully the inspiration that's just going to keep catching on. He's just a perfect example of someone who really, he didn't have to say a single word, except, yeah, my life is great, look at all the great things I've done. But there he was, right with us, vulnerable and caring and profound, and showing his weaknesses as well as all his wonderful strengths. So another
Yeah.
wonderful person that I'm just so honored to have met.
Yeah, no, that's a good
Yeah.
takeaway, is he didn't have to do that, right? Like, think about somebody maybe in that industry that he serves, doing what he did, the potential harm long ago that could have done, and his bravery and just coming on and expressing his feelings. And then obviously Todd, the unfortunate timing of his planned appearance, if you will, then became around the Covenant School shooting, and how that impacted him in Nashville. So, thinking back about KT, obviously there's a lot of relatability now with his involvement in the game of baseball, and, his close proximity to what happened in Nashville. So what do you think about KT as we, reflect on him?
Well, I just, obviously a really, really cool guy, hard worker, everything that he's achieved. Listen, being a baseball agent or an agent in sports is not easy. It's not like Jerry Maguire, the movie. I mean, that's hard, and it comes with a lot of cool stuff and everything else, but it is not easy. And it's a constant game of evolution and adaptation and just everything. And there's a ton of stress. So I'm really happy that, he has found ways to relax himself and be the great person that he is. And then, of course, his true character came out with what he did, even if it's, taking a step to just listen to somebody in that unfortunate circumstance with all those poor children and those families, and him being there just to be an ear for someone, I think is just total bravery. And I'm really excited to further our relationship with Kyle. I know you've got the great relationship with him already, but cool, man. And Milk and Honey, I mean, what a great name for an agency, right?
Yeah.
Milk and Honey Entertainment, baby. So it's like,
it.
yeah, he's just cool. Just a
Yeah.
and he, although he likes the Yankees, it's fine though. But.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. But speaking of bravery, you said there too, I can't think of another a more braver act than somebody of our age, Todd, trying to play college football. Like, so next we were able to have Ian Hill on, and there's just not enough time on this show to say all the amazing things about Ian, but he's trying to play football, and he's on a roster right now, still working to become a Division I athlete and bring awareness to men's suicide rates. So Dr. LaRosa, obviously getting to know Ian was remarkable on so many levels, but when you think about him, what are some of your quick thoughts?
Wow. His energy, passion, and strength are overwhelmingly contagious. I just felt so energized, from simply meeting him just for a few minutes. He's obviously big and strong on the exterior, but he jumped right into the vulnerability aspect that men face in our society, what he has personally faced, how he, again, was leading a life of success, but didn't feel fulfilled, and really found himself in a depressed state. And he really spoke so clearly about what depression can do to a person on the outside and on the inside, how it can make you act and change and feel. And he hated it, so much that he wanted to, kick depression's ass and just say, not today, and that is really the attitude that he's just such a, he's got that grit of an athlete, and he's taking that pain that he feels towards depression, and he's using it to fuel his desire to make a statement, to make an impact, and to bring light to a very complicated topic. Because in our society, we tend to put things in categories that compete with each other. Men's mental health. Well, what about women? Well, what about this group? Well, what about that group?
Mm-hmm.
And that really isn't what it's about. It's about It's about focusing on the needs of a particular group that absolutely positively needs more attention, research, and time spent on it, because in our society, men in general are prone and taught to do exactly the opposite of what we're promoting here with our work. They are not encouraged to be vulnerable and expressive and talkative, and they're not taught to handle those extraordinarily difficult emotions. And so many times on this show, you both have talked about the impact of sports and possibly having to find a new role and a new path in life and a new vision of yourself, and how difficult that is for high achieving athletes and people in that particular world, and the mental toll that it could possibly take on someone. And that's just one example of how that can affect an adult male going into adulthood. But I just say that he really did a great job in opening our eyes on the needs that middle-aged men have with regard to mental health, and we should think about it a little bit more directly as a result of knowing Ian.
Yeah, no, he brought great attention to a great issue, of which, Todd and I are in that demographic, and, we joked a little bit about it with Ian, but, Todd, thinking about getting to know Mr. Hill and, all the work he's doing now, and, what were some of your takeaways?
Well, Dr. LaRosa stole all my notes again.
Yes, always.
And
always.
everything
We're gonna have to
wanted
work on that
say,
in the
she
break.
said it. So
We don't
Peter.
rehearse this. People don't believe us.
No, really, I think just what Dr. LaRosa just said just summed it all up about Ian. I mean, his passion for life now, his willing to just absolutely kick depression's ass. And I thought that was just so well said. He's a motivator, right? He's an inspiration, and somebody that you're like, come on, man, like, let's go. I hope and you're patting him on the back and you're behind him and you're like pushing for him and pulling for him. And regardless if football works out or not, the message that he's bringing forth towards suicidal rate for men and women and our society and everything, he's just a true example of walking tall. So I was so honored to meet him.
Yeah, no, and he's doing great work with the NGBN TV network and all those things too. And I encourage anybody listening to certainly check out the amazing work he and his crew are doing as well to better the mental health of men. It's not just his work of trying to get on a football field. But then, from there, we stuck a little bit with the unfortunate suicide theme, but we had a TBI mixed into the conversation when we had Amir on. And as you both know, I've known Amir for a long time, as he was a high school student and then graduated, and now he's a college graduate, and he's somebody I just want to have a part of my life forever. And he's one of the first people I got a call from on the 4th of July this past year to check in to see how I was doing and sending me notes. And so I just have such great love for him, but I know that both of you do as well. And as you got to know him, you understood why I did. And so Todd, getting to know Amir and hearing his story, what were some of the impacts and thoughts you had as we got to know him?
Yeah, I think, relating to him as an athlete and him being younger, than me, of course. And I kind of look at that just in his experience in going through that injury and trying to tough through it and not saying anything, and then getting, ultimately injured and going through that aneurysm. Then his story of his parents and just, the standing over his bed and the visuals that you have as a parent now. And you're like, oh my God. So it's like, it makes you really just think about life, and his perseverance then to just say, no, I'm not going to just lay down. I'm going to go up and I'm going to go graduate from college. I'm going to be a good citizen. I'm going to do what I want in my life. And so another inspiring individual that so many people can learn from and rally behind. So definitely a true fan of Amir, and another example of walking tall.
Yeah, he's been walking tall before there was a walking tall. And it's just so inspiring to see his progress as a young man, And as he moves on into physical therapy school, and Dr. LaRosa, you made mention, and I also have no doubt, like he's going to be at the top of that field when it's all said and done and he retires, not only because of his work ethic and the amount of work he'll put in the classroom and in the clinics, but his empathy and his ability to relate to people will take him so much farther in life. And you made a great point while we visited with him. So what are some of your takeaways if I didn't steal what you were going to say?
Well, you did, but that's okay.
I know.
Oh boy, to know Amir is absolutely to love Amir. I just wanted to give him a big hug, like all of our guests. I just want to reach right through and just give him a big hug, squeeze the face, you know.
That's the mom in you.
Yeah, that's the grandma. That's the Nona.
Coming out, you know, give me 30, 40 years, I'll be there.
Yeah.
But he just is so pure. And I said this, you know, even after, I think in our recap, right after the week after we met with him, he was injured at 15 years of age, right? He talked about, was it 15? I believe it was 15.
15.
Yeah.
Yep.
He talked about what football had done for him, how it made him feel. And as you're a developing kid at that age, that's all you want to feel. That's all you want to feel. You want to feel part of something. You want to feel good about yourself. You want to feel as if your day-to-day has purpose, and you have motivation, and you have friends, and you have something you're really good at, and that makes you feel good. And it's just when he put us back into that mental state, he gave us an inkling into what a person of that age experiences, what's important to them, and just truly and simply how vulnerable they are, right? And then to hear about his injury and how severe and traumatic it was, and the impact that it had on him, to see his family suffering really touched me again from a completely different perspective, because as parents, we lay it all out there, you know, with our kids. We express things, and sometimes we don't stop to think, how is a 15 or a 16 or 13-year-old interpreting my emotional response to this situation? You know, that is essentially what an emotional IQ is. That's emotional intelligence. It's being able to act a certain way and project how another person is going to interpret, perceive, and respond to your actions, hopefully ahead of time before you do it, so that you can have the proper impact on people that you want. But we don't all think this way all the time. And it is a heightened emotional intelligence that is necessary to constantly live your life that way. But people are on the go, and people are doing what they do so quickly. Sometimes it's not for a lack of emotional intelligence in all occasions. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it really just is
Sure.
being too busy, that people don't stop and reflect and sort of temper things. And that was a lesson for me, you know, as a mom who, as you have said, is extremely involved with my kids. I also like to give them enough freedom and room to grow and make their own mistakes and have their own interpretations in life. And, you know, sometimes when I know that I'm too emotional about something like an injury of my son, or, you know, something, or an emotional time that my other son is going through, I have, because of Amir, I have stopped myself, taken a few steps back, and I have reenacted the way that I'm projecting to them, because of how heavy and how much they really connect on the way that we respond to them. So, you know, as with all of our guests, I've learned something from each and
Yeah.
every one of them. And
Amazing.
Amir is going to be that amazing physical therapist that wants to help every single one of his patients to the ultimate, because he went through it himself. And I could just see him going the extra mile, going the distance for every patient that he has.
Yeah. And it wasn't planned, but we then had another Highland Park resident on who goes the extra mile, and her charity work with the Balance Project and her sponsorship of our first season, you know, has been just so great. And she's just become another ally in our movement, and confidant in many other respects, you know, helping us in certain areas of which we want to carry our movement forward. So Dr. LaRosa, getting to know Augie, she's becoming one of your new best friends, like you said, and I hope you guys are still staying in touch, and I know you are. But real quick, too, having her on our show and as a part of our movement has really helped in many ways. And so what are some of your takeaways getting to know her?
Yeah. Well, for me, she reignited my thought process on the importance of cultural sensitivity and what children in our country go through when they introduce their cultural themes, to others in school, and how vulnerable they must feel in doing that sort of thing, and just having that divide with, loving a family and your culture so much, and that's where you go home every day, and that's the life you live. And then maybe when you're in school and around others, you try to be a little bit different to fit in, or whatever else have you, and that takes an emotional toll, on developing people. Aggie went through a lot in her life, with her culture, and with her family and where she lived, and her desire to help people from not only her culture but others who need more access to mental health care and to supportive services, and making that a lifelong mission, just puts her at the top of the list in terms of people that have actually just led their life to walk tall for others, and this is what she's always done, and this is what she'll continue to do. And I just look so forward to various ways that we could work together, help her with her mission, and as we have said so many times before, this is not a competition. Anyone that comes to us that we get to know who's doing great work for others, we just want to help them expand. We want to be part of their arsenal. We want to be part of their supportive group and network to help them do more of the good stuff that they're already destined to do. So she's an inspirational person and a strong person, and I admire her greatly. And I'm very, very glad that, again, Chris, that you introduced me to her, because through you, I have met a variety of amazing people.
Yeah, no, and Todd, you as well, have gotten to know Augie over time, and she's been kind of clued into our movement even before it was revealed, and was a supporter before there was supporters, frankly. So, what are your thoughts about Augie, and how are you feeling as you've gotten to know her?
Well, first of all, I want to thank her and the Balance Project for being our first supporter. I think that's the leap of faith, and she really believed in us enough to power us financially to offset some of our costs, and that we have, as you run this show, and we're trying to do good things. And she was awesome. But the individual of Augie, right when you first get a chance to meet, when you introduced me, I mean, it was like, man, this girl, like, she's pretty cool, and I enjoyed talking to her, and then where she like sets up, it's even better, because she looks like she's like on a Star Wars ship, and she's like, ready. She's at the captain's helm, and she's got like this cool background to it. It's, I don't know, it's just cool. So everything about her was cool. The fact that, she's her mission of creating more peer support group, and definitely helping just so many people. So another example of walking.
I've known her for forever, and like I said, her charitable giving and her philanthropic efforts are just so needed in the Highland Park community. And she's been helping me for quite some time with an event I run at work. And, I just can't thank her enough. And it didn't surprise me. And I knew who to go to right away when I said, hey, here's what we're doing. Could we have your support? And I knew we would get it. And we just can't wait to continue to help the Balance Project as well. And, but then we didn't stop with the ladies. We got to know Miss Natalie Douglas, and she has been so instrumental early on in pushing us forward, and just hearing her story on so many levels was, for me personally, just heartbreaking, but also like heart-filling, because you hear this woman who is going through what she's going through, but to hear the energy and the empathy and the excitement still she has for life is just so admirable. And it's a testament to her and her strength and her ability to walk tall. And Todd, I know you feel the exact same way. As we got to know Natalie, it was just like, wow, what more is there to say? So if you have anything more to say, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, another one, listening to Natalie's story of adversity and perseverance and how she flatlined, and she came back for a purpose, and to be the amazing mom to that beautiful child, and how she's helping so many other youth, parents with youth, and just in her community and mental health, and then what she's going through now, and that struggle and that fight. So, I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about her, and I just pray to God and all the angels above and Jesus that strength that we all have, and that feeling of goosebumps when we really, truly, passionately wish and pray that there's healing, and that people like her are able to just continue to walk tall for all of us. I mean, she's, again, a true beacon of light in our society. Her smile is contagious, and just, I'm a true fan of Natalie Douglas. So yeah, it's awesome. I really appreciate you bringing her on.
Yeah, and if there was one thing negative I could say about her, like you, Dr. LaRosa, being a Yankee fan, she's a Cub fan, and we won't hold that against her. But I just have great regard for Natalie, and I know you do as well, Dr. LaRosa. Not only because of who she is as a person, but also her profession. You two have very similar interests, and her working to become at the top of her field like you. There was a lot of cool conversation going on, and I know you were inspired by her, and I'm excited to hear how.
Well, I said this, to know Natalie is to love Natalie. I say that about everyone, but she's just adorable. She's a beautiful young woman inside and out. She has been through so much. It was tough for me listening to her story, not only because of the level of empathy that I had for her, but also the anger that I had at all the medical mistakes and the people just not putting her at the top of their list and getting it right. This is a life, and this is a precious life to so many, and the mistakes that were made, in my eyes, were not forgivable. And it really ignited that advocate passion in me, where I just wanted to start a file and call all these people up and have a strong talk with them about their behavior. But
Yeah,
you're reading the riot act.
And honestly, it ignited so many thoughts and memories in me. My mother went through a very, very, very tough battle with cancer and breast cancer, and she was misdiagnosed. She was diagnosed, they told us that she was in stage 1A. There was no threat at all. And after they did the mastectomy, removed the lymph nodes and tested the nodes, there's no cancer, there's no sign anywhere. So they did not put her on tamoxifen or any kind of preventative measure after the diagnosis. And she was dead not more than a year later. The cancer spread, it was in her hip. How could it spread if it wasn't there, right? So I went through my own situation, just medical faux pas all over the place that just cost a beautiful life. And I related to her on so many different levels. I felt her fear, her pain, her anguish. I felt how hard it is to have the energy to do the job that she does every single day and take care of her own beautiful son with his own special needs. And talk about a super mom, she certainly is one, and she's there every single day giving everything to everyone. And she needs the medical profession to be a little more on top of their game, and to do what's right for her and get her healthy to live the rest of the quality life that she positively absolutely deserves. So I said it before, when she's ready, I'm here for anything she needs in her professional career. And it would be my absolute pleasure to see her blossom into a board certified behavior analyst that she desires to be one day.
Yeah. Well, I stay in contact with her, and we were texting the other day, and she's doing well. Her chemotherapy's over, and I won't say too much more, but she's in good spirits, and she's doing well. So and I hope in season 2 we can maybe recap how she's doing and maybe have her back on, just because I know listeners are certainly thinking of her as well. But we didn't stop there, and we kept going, and we got to know the most incredible Lori Zapula and hear her story, again, of being a young woman diving into a pool and breaking her neck, and all the struggles that brought to the forefront, both physically and mentally. And that story for me really hit home, because I can imagine, I guess I couldn't, losing my ability or being told, hey, you're never going to walk again, or you're going to have issues, and her perseverance was just so admirable, and such a testament to her true strength. And now she's telling her story once again, and she's doing TED Talks, and she has an amazing book, and the list goes on. And it was just my honor to bring her to the Walking Tall movement. And the cool thing that I've noticed about Lori particularly is she's now branching out, and she's now starting to attend, live audio events on LinkedIn, or she's now working to network to spread her word. Whereas maybe before Walking Tall and her appearance, she was working towards it, but not as fast. And now she's like gangbusters. And it's been so exciting to just see her presence on social media. And I know she's going to continue to just do great work. And Todd, you got to know Lori and hear her story. And I know it was one that was like, wow. And, you had a lot of takeaways. And so what were a couple of those?
Yeah, another just beautiful soul that has been saved and given an opportunity to share her story to others going through such a tragic event. Here you got a girl that's getting ready to go to college and having a good time in life, and then one dive into a pool and her whole life changes in an instant. And I thought one of the more impactful moments, aside from her tragedy, that she spoke about was her going through the therapy part of learning how to be in our society again and heal, and the people that would give looks, right? And all the different people that gave someone with special needs or something that was more handicapped, I guess, and the looks that she would receive, and her now trying to tell you like what that feels like. And so it really, I think our younger generation is more more accepting of everybody's faults, right? Our younger generation doesn't see what maybe our generation did, or the generation before and the generation before that, where maybe it was kind of outcasted if you had a deficiency in your life or mental health. So I think her sharing her story really resonated with me. And I'm just so proud of like my own children that, my own daughter that helps families with, children that need more help. Right. And my son has got such a crazy, awesome, amazing heart, and sees beyond any deficiency in life, and really, really more, cares about the person you are and the soul that you have. Right. So I really learned a lot from Lori, a true inspiration. And, I'm a fan of hers, like, inspiring book writer and what she's doing. It's just awesome. So really, really awesome person.
Yeah. And Dr. LaRosa, I recall, you making mention of your work early on in your career and experiencing, with some of your friends that you were taking to the movies or bowling, I think you said, and you would get looks of similar nature, and you commented on that. And obviously you could understand a little bit closer what Lori was saying than Todd or I, but what were some of your takeaways thinking back on Lori's story?
Well, it's true. Our society is a bit unforgiving when they see people that they don't understand or that are different. And while I do think that the schools and people are trying to make kids more aware and more inclusive and understanding, I think we have a real ways to go. I think that it isn't easy for people to kind of see people the way that you described that your son does, or that your daughter Gracie. We're blessed and fortunate as parents to have kids who have that way of viewing the world. But I know that in raising my own children, even small things, like if we're out somewhere and we see a kid in a wheelchair or a disabled person, I'd rather a person with disabilities, I'm the first one, if they walk by and they're smiling at me, I'm the first one to go up and give them a high five and say, hey, how you doing today? It's a great day, right? And, I'll engage in a 15-minute conversation, and my kids will see the happiness and joy that comes over me when I have that interaction. And just by being that way, they have learned to understand people from a different perspective. And as you said, Todd, to see the soul, to see the nature of the person, and not the exterior, not what they see as a disability. Because as Lori said, these are differing abilities. There is no less than. Everybody has a different set of skills and a different set of strengths to share with the world. And I've told you many times how I have learned from the individuals that I've worked with over the course of my life, and I have certainly learned from them how to be a better person, how to be more vulnerable, and how to really just appreciate the things that we may take for granted. So she really did remind everyone of that. One thing that struck me when I heard her story was ultimate fear. When she said when she hit the water and she felt herself in the fetal position, and she kind of knew what that impact had done to her at that point in time, I was terrified. When I heard what she had gone through mentally, I was terrified. I can only imagine her in that moment on that impact and what she must have gone through. The fear alone from a situation like that could really impact people, permanently and negatively beyond repair sometimes. But, she fought through that, her whole rehab journey and everything that she went through from multiple angles that led into her book, was just such an inspiring story. And I do plan to get her book and to read that. I'm looking forward to it when and if I ever have some downtime.
Yeah, you're gonna walk. That's the title
Audio.
of it. You're gonna walk. So please, if you can, check out Lori's book. And it was funny as I was thinking about the next guest we wanted to highlight. It's interesting how you both, and obviously I have kids as well, highlighted your children. And then I think to Miss Jill Winter and her fight to become a parent, whereas maybe for the three of us, and I don't know each of your circumstances when each of you were having your kids, but it came by pretty easily, for my family, and we were very fortunate in that respect. And obviously, Jill, that was not the case. And Dr. LaRosa, I know you've gotten to work with her professionally and know her personally, and you heard some things for the first time related to Gatlin and all that that transpired, and you had just some great emotion as we stepped away from that show. So, what were some of your quick takeaways as we got to spend time with your friend, Jill?
Well, as you could all see, Jill is a person with a tremendous heart and soul. She is a very strong faith-based person. She's super intelligent. She's super successful. She had a lot to teach me about the corporate world and the corporate life. I knew her son Gatlin, his story, her family. It's just that I didn't know the fine details of some of what she had gone through. And when she put herself in that place for us and made herself extraordinarily vulnerable by going back to some of the most difficult times in her life, it really did impact me, as did all the stories for all of our guests, because I could feel her pain in those times, in that moment. As she was telling that story, I was right there with her. And just like I was there with you when you told your story, Chris, and you when you told your story, Todd, you feel for people that you care for, and you are impacted by the pain and the experiences that they endure. And that is what came over me during the time that she was speaking, and probably why I became so emotional. And I admire her. She's an advocate, but she does that. I'm very much like her, in a very calculated, analytical way. Every step of every process is completely analyzed, researched, and thought out. Hours and hours and hours of time go into every step and every decision made. And we're very similar in that regard in everything that we do. So, when she's talking about staying up all night reading medical journals to understand her son's needs, I see her doing that, and I'm right there with her. So I just thank her so much for sharing her story. And, we know that Gatlin's out there doing great things in the world, and he's a sheriff. He's protecting, his his territory out there. So I'm just happy that it all worked out for him. And she brought light, to the importance of organ donation, and some of the extraordinarily difficult times that friends of hers had, in experiencing losses of their own precious babies. And, just as the pain that came along with that understanding was so extraordinarily overwhelming for anyone who has children, or, envisions themselves having children, or just loves anyone that, when they know their life is vulnerable, it makes you vulnerable. And she really showed that to us. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you all got to see the wonderful person that I know.
Yeah, no, she was amazing and fantastic. And now that you sit back, and I heard you say, Dr. LaRosa, her sitting and reading medical journals of her son's ailments and whatnot, it brought me to when you told your story of what you did for your father, and helped extend his life through the research you did. And it doesn't surprise me that the two of you joined forces and continue to do good in the world together. And Todd, you got to know Jill like I did. And what were some of your quick takeaways? Obviously her story was just miraculous, and her as a person is just so impressive.
Yeah. I mean, pull on your heartstrings, take your heart out, throw it down and put it back in your chest. I was like, holy cow, man. So yeah, exactly what Dr. LaRosa said. I mean, such a vibrant soul, just so spiritual and awesome. And I wanted to like reach across and give her a hug. And what she went through, what her friends went through, the challenge of like this roadmap has been built in front of you, and you're understanding the diversities and the hardships that you're about to embark on, and it's probably not going to work. There's the odds are 100% stacked against you that your baby's going to survive, and he did. And then the reality of the reason he survived was because someone else did not, right? But the legacy that Gatlin is putting forth now, and how he's carrying on that amazing just amazing, he's just a true inspiration, and he's doing so many good things, and it's just so positive. So anyways, it was a great heartfelt, it got me very emotional. Started thinking a lot about my own kids and how lucky I am, we all are, with our children. And I'm just a super fan now of Jill Winter. Man, she's awesome.
Yeah, and Todd, you said legacy, and then the next guest we had was it was our honor to bring to the world the legacy of Devin Cody, and Brandon's brother, as we kind of celebrated him and on the 25th anniversary of his passing. And obviously Brandon being one of my board of directors, as he has for such a long time, and still did just an amazing job telling the world about who his brother was and the relationship they had and all the good he did while he was on this earth, but also bringing to light the struggles that it caused for him in losing his brother, and for his parents. And the one thing I want to say, Todd, you and I were actually texting with Brandon last night, and we got to hear for the first time that his parents finally took in the episode of which Brandon shared his brother's story. And he just shared with us how proud both Gary and Jane were of him for doing that. And it just made me feel so good, and you guys both have gotten to know Brandon through me, and I hope you can understand why now I love him so much, and he is who he is in my life. But Dr. LaRosa, as you heard Brandon tell his story and talk a little bit about Devin, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, like I said before, you're so fortunate to have such a wonderful friend and such a great person. And, he was vulnerable, and a few times during his story, he broke down, of course, because like I said, that long-term memory of ours, we just don't know what's going to pop into our head at any time and how it's going to make us feel. And he opened himself up to the potential of that. And to imagine how hard it was to lose a brother only 3 years apart, knowing the story and how he was such a hero really touched me, because I envisioned him climbing, through that truck and pushing out his coworker and saving them. I don't know what he looks like, but I have a vision. I have a vision of everything. He told the story from such a such a profound place, that I was able to be there with him and really just get to know Devin, um, for what he gave to this world and the impact that he had while he was here. And while it must have been so difficult for his parents to listen to our episode, in some way, I'm sure that it was also helpful, to know that his spirit and his personality is living on through talking about him and celebrating the life that he had. So for him to, put himself out there and bring this all up and talk about it and make himself vulnerable is so very much appreciated. And I felt the same way about him. I felt goodness and depth and character and just more of the kind of people that we all want to have in our lives. So again, thank you for that introduction. My life is better knowing him and Devin.
Yeah. Well, you said that you didn't know what Devin looked like. And Brandon, if you're listening, I could tell you that he was much better looking than you. As a board of director, as a member of my board of directors, I could say that in jest. But obviously, Todd, you've gotten to know Brandon on many levels, and as you've become one of my board of directors, as you both have, I introduced you to Brandon early on, and felt like he was somebody you must meet immediately, and I hope you feel that as well, getting to know him. But as you've gotten to know Brandon and obviously heard his story, what were some of your takeaways?
Well, I thought Brandon was a stand-up guy in the beginning, when we first met. He's a friend of yours, so there's an instant kind of credibility to his goodness, right? And is trustworthy. But listening to him tell his story about his brother, like I mentioned in our recap, man, he just reminds me of, like, that's, if I'm going to ever meet his brother one day, or if I would have met him years ago, that's Brandon. He's living for his brother, whether he realizes that or not. So yeah, true inspiration. So happy to have him in my circle of friends, and just a great guy. And in fact, like, I'm looking back at all the different stories we've been saying, Chris, and talking about everyone, and there's not one that I could say this was our best show. Like, they're all right. I mean, they're all super impactful. They all have their own character to them, and they all were so profound. And to quote the renowned Dr. LaRosa, to know them is to love them.
Yes, it's so true. And listen, as we highlighted TJ, so we won't do that again. But obviously TJ knows what we feel about him, and his story was remarkable in itself. But we've been so fortunate to get to know so many people in the last 20 weeks or thereabout, and we have great plans to carry this movement forward. This break doesn't mean we're done. Just means we're going to take a little bit of time to work on something else. And we still plan to film some shows as we can without regular scheduling and things like that. We want to allow Dr. LaRosa to chase Vito around and play baseball, and Todd to spend some time in the pool, and me to get back to work or do what it is I need to do. And so we're just so excited that you as a listener have taken the time to invest in us, and rest assured we're investing in you on many levels. And this is not a goodbye, but we'll see you in a little bit, if I may. And so, Dr. LaRosa, as we kind of wrap up season 1 and take this short pause of a couple weeks, what is the last few words you want to say before we go away until sometime in August?
I just want to encourage people to take a chance, be vulnerable. We did, we got together and we said, we're going to just do this, and, put our good thoughts and wishes out there for the universe, and in an attempt to help people, what could possibly go wrong, right? So don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to spend the time on your mental health. You're worth it. And as you walk tall for yourself and others, think of us. We'll be seeing you very soon with some interesting topics and information.
Thank you. And Todd, obviously a lot of plans in the works for the three of us, and a lot of initiatives, and taking this time will help us establish a foundation for some of those additional items we want to bring to our movement. But as you sit back and, recapped all of our guests and thought about the last, couple months or 4 months, what are your takeaways before we sign off?
Well, I'm excited for season 2, if that's what we're calling it, just the next stage. I'm glad we're taking a little bit of break here to gather ourselves, and I think we need that anyways. But there's so much opportunity now that's being presented to us as a culture of walking tall and a movement. I do want to read my poem, by the way.
I know
And
I didn't forget about that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm here. Let's go. Let's walk tall together, learn how to help each other walk tall, and let's just keep going.
Yeah, no, it's been my honor in so many levels over the last bit of time to work hand in hand with each of you, to learn through you, to learn through our guests, to bounce ideas off you, to have each of you listen to my harebrained ideas when I'm in what do we call it, ideation mode, or when I'm like, hey, we're gonna do this or we're gonna do that. You guys have put up with me and my craziness on many levels, and so I can't thank each of you enough. And
Awesome.
I'm just so excited about what the future has in store for us. It could be groundbreaking, and it could really be world changing. And it doesn't come just by the three of us. If you're listening to us today, we ask you, please continue to carry our movement forward. Walk tall for yourselves, walk tall for others. Understand that vulnerability is strength. The list goes on, and continue to stay in tune with us. Our social media is not going away. Our website will continuously be updated. We'll keep people abreast of what we have going on, no different than our recent sponsorship of the HP Cares for Cooper event. I look for more things like that as well. And so stay in tune with us. And if you have ideas or thoughts or comments you want to make, shoot us an email, info@walkingtallpodcast.com. And Todd, before we kind of let people know where they could find us and give us all the information, I want to give it to you, and I want you to read this poem.
All right, here we go. In the depths of despair, a soul did sway, yearning to find strength in a brand new way. Through the shadows they wandered, feeling small, seeking the courage to rise and stand tall. Whispers of doubt echoed deep within. Fear and isolation held them captive, akin. But a glimmer of hope, like a distant call, guided their steps towards being approachable. They learned to shed masks, the walls they wore, embracing vulnerability, opening the door. In a sharing their struggles, a weight did lift, a newfound freedom, a soul's precious gift. With each heartfelt connection, they grew strong, discovering approachability where they belong, a tapestry of empathy woven thread by thread, walking tall, no longer filled the dread. For in being approachable, they found the key to heal, to inspire, and set their spirit free. Now they walk the path with heads held high, a beacon of light reaching for the sky. So let us all learn from this courageous movement to be approachable, our heart's content. For in walking tall, embracing one and all, we create a world where compassion walks tall.
Well, I can't say anything better than that. Everybody have a great summer. We will miss you. Please stay in touch. Todd, thank you for sharing that beautiful poem.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful.
And walk tall, everybody.
Walk tall.
Walk tall.